Hey, Kara Oostros here with RealAgriculture.com. Guys, it is Friday. We have almost made it through the week. I mean, depending where you are. We're getting through, and it has been a wonderful first official back to work week in January. However, it is now that time of the year we are kind of through, the Christmas season, the rush. I know I find personally it seems like October, November, you're looking forward to Christmas coming along and all sorts of fun that way, and then January rolls around and you're like, okay, now what? And then throw in a giant global pandemic, and we have even a tougher time on our mental health. So, here today to talk to us and give us some tips and tricks is Lesley Kelly of High Heels and Canola Fields, as well as a co founder of Do More Ag. How's it going today?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. Happy Friday.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you're based in, you're just outside of Saskatoon, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, about an hour south of Saskatoon in a town called Watrous.
Awesome. What sorts of weather are you guys seeing down there right now?
Oh, the weather has been amazing. Really warm. And I've been out skiing every day, taking in those sun rays. So our snow is melting, and I would like to see more of it soon.
Before we dig into the depths here, of course, one of our first questions is Brian Voth, the tallest of them all. And he says, who is taller, Kara or Lesley? I don't believe I've really had the opportunity to actually meet Lesley in person yet. I know I stand about 5'2", so chances are I think you're taller than me.
Well, if I put on the real egg hat, I might be taller than you then.
Ooh, that's true. And I mean, like, kind of an unfair question from Brian. Like, we can't all be giants here. And
Yeah, my
Viren
neck hurts
says, your neck hurts. Yeah, exactly.
from always looking up
Viren,
at him.
hello, him and Brennan Turner. I had Brennan Turner on earlier this week, and that's what they were having a bit of a, I don't know what it is with guys in height, but anyways, guys, you're tall. We get it. Um, anyways, Viren has a comment here, and he says, Watrous is home of the famous Horsehair dance floor. Is there a story behind that?
Yes, so we have an amazing historic building called Danceland, and it was built in, I think, the early 1900s, and it has a dance floor with horsehair underneath. So when you dance, the dance floor moves. And I got married there about 15 years ago, too. So it's a special building monument in Watrous, or Manitou Beach, actually.
Cool. That's really interesting. The things you can do with horsehair, I guess.
Yeah.
So we're now, like I kind of said in my intro, we're now getting to that time of the year where it's tough. We don't necessarily have a lot of things to look at or look forward to. It's cold, or maybe it's warm. I know I'm in southern Alberta, and we've had some actually warmer days, which I think is giving people a lot of spring fever in some ways, but we're not there yet. So, do you have any tips for what people can be doing right now to kind of get out of that slump?
Yeah, the winter funk and winter blues. I put out a thread earlier this week because I was writing an article and found out that I am not alone in feeling that way. Colder temperatures, darker days it can get us down. So I've learned through the responses from farmers and with myself and my family, getting outside can help, even though it's the outside that might cause the gloominess, those freezing temperatures. Getting outside can bring us some energy, motivate us. And I was really fortunate to see even just working outside can really help us as well. And with that coming with getting outside is the exercising. I've been cross country skiing and getting outside every day for a walk, which has really helped. It could be a good mood booster. Getting that physical exercise, that fresh air can really help as well. I heard a variety of other responses about people setting goals and organizing, working on projects, getting or breaking down the projects into bite-sized pieces that might help. And when it comes to organizing, it could be either paperwork, working on the business, but also in the home. With it being a global pandemic, I have the long honey to-do list of all the home projects, all the home renos. So that was really great to see. And then the other responses also included, and this was interesting, it was taking a break or planning or taking a vacation. I know that is hard with COVID right now, but I heard a lot of people say that they're planning a vacation. I thought that was really cool because that's something that gives us that hope, something to look forward to. And people talking about whether it was a hot holiday or, getting off the farm and going ice fishing or going to a hotel to get that simple break. Other people were taking in new hobbies and projects, which was really cool too. Whether it was working in the shop, working on equipment or cars or wood projects, that was really really cool. People are also taking online classes, that continuous learning, which was great to see. And then some other special acknowledgments or mentions were folks practicing gratitude, things to be thankful for, reading a book every week or setting those goals of continuous learning, light therapy, taking vitamins, having a daily routine, waking up at the same times every day also helped others, dancing, listening to music. So it was, I heard lots of different responses, a wide variety, but what I also heard, what I thought of initially and at the end was people know that this time is hard. We can get into a funk and people are aware and very intentional of what they're doing to help through those times.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people that struggle, especially when you said, like, it comes to seasonal depression and things like that. Half the problem is the lack of the ability to, because I know I've faced some depressive parts before where getting out of bed is sometimes the hardest part of my day. And I used to kind of chuckle and you'd go, "Oh, come on, anyone can get out of bed." But it is a big struggle when you don't necessarily have that motivation. So is there any recommendations you have for people that, maybe they do want to start a workout regime or maybe they do want to go outside a bit more? Is there any sort of kickstarting, once we get into that routine, we seem to be okay, but it's getting there that can be difficult. Is there any recommendations you have?
Yeah, for myself, it's having that extra person to kick me out of bed, to say, "Hey, you wanted to do this, and now is a great time." For me, it's doing things that I want to do, that I love to do. So it's really hard to get yourself out of bed when you know that there's something that you might not want to do. But looking for even a small thing that might make your day happy or bring you joy can really help during one of those dark days or dark moods or getting yourself out of bed.
What sort of resources does Do More Egg have when it comes to, there's people that are they, like you said, you're able to maybe talk to your husband or talk to your kids, and but they might be alone in this. What sort of recommendation or what sort of things does Do More Egg have that for resources?
Yeah, that alone feeling, we all know what that feels like. Because even in a community or being around people, you might still feel alone. So at Do More, you can visit our website for resources. We have a list of national, regional, local, and provincial resources where farmers, individuals in agriculture can call, they can talk to someone, and it depends on if you want to call or text or do something over FaceTime. It all depends on what you need, but there are people out there. There are resources. There are counselors, mental health professionals that can help you and will talk to you.
So, as I said earlier, you are one of the founders of Do More Egg. Do you want to talk a bit about that inception and why you actually felt it was important to have these resources?
Yeah, mental health is something that is near and dear to my heart. And I would say, a decade ago, I didn't know a lot about mental health. And it wasn't until myself and my family members and my husband started to go through a really, really hard time. And to the point where my husband, Matt, was having panic attacks in front of me. And I didn't know what to do, what to say, who to call. And we were even at a point where we didn't want to we didn't want anyone to know because of the stigma of what the fear of what people might think or how we would be treated. So we kept it to ourselves and tried to figure out, what helped and what worked. And by speaking out about those journeys and the impacts that it had on us, we don't want other people to go through that as well. So my husband and I, we did a video sharing our mental health stories in the hope that, if one person saw it, that it gave them the hope that there is help out there, that it does get better, that there are people that love you and that want you to be healthy. And that was a catalyst for starting Do More. So myself and three other people co-founded Do More with the notion that there was a need to have these conversations to increase awareness about mental health and to reduce that stigma.
Do you do you have any recommendations? So as you have kind of gone across this journey, Do More Egg has how many years have you guys been around now?
Oh, I think we're coming on 3-year anniversary in January.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So, as you've kind of journeyed through this, I know some of the tougher parts. I mean, it's always tough to be the one that deals with mental health issues, but how do you get somebody around you to understand? Because I know that's a big part for a lot of people is that they feel misunderstood. They feel like they're maybe going crazy because those around them don't really get what they're feeling. Do you want to talk a bit about some of the things you found that way?
Yeah, and speaking personally from my husband living with anxiety, and some of my family members, like my brother has post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety as well. And my dad is going through cancer and is also experiencing anxiety. And it wasn't until late one night when I thought, when Matt was going through a really hard time. His anxiety was peaked and he wasn't sleeping. And I remember in the middle of the night, me walking up to him thinking like, hey, just come to bed, just go to sleep. And he showed me a journal of all the thoughts that were racing in his mind. And I couldn't find one white space on that piece of paper. And that was an aha moment for me is I don't I don't understand. I don't know what you're going through, but what I can do is help support you and know that this is a safe place for you to come to and talk, and I will listen and help you through this. And it was those conversations that helped my husband open up, because he had been going through this for over a decade, and I didn't know. I knew he had his moments, and I always attribute it to, maybe a hard day or a bad day. I didn't know the extremes of what he was facing. So from what I've learned is, you know having those conversations, just letting someone know that you are available to listen and that you're here for them. And that could be a world of difference for someone going through a hard time.
Yes, for sure. So Brian Voth here has a question. He says, with no farm shows this winter, do you think farmers specifically are at a higher risk from a mental health aspect with no ability to socialize like they normally would?
Yeah, for sure. I'm an extroverted person, and what I look forward to in the winter are the farm shows and seeing people, going out with my girlfriends and seeing my neighbors and being at those farm shows and socializing and learning. So for sure, I am definitely worried about our farmers who might not have those connections, those social interactions. And so I'm encouraging folks that, when those things aren't happening, we have to look for other ways of having those connections. Social media is one, developing, a chat group, a peer support group, talking, checking in with your neighbors, sending those text messages, using video chats, any ways that we can stay connected. But yeah, I'm definitely concerned and trying to find ways to stay connected.
I feel like I've been saying this all week. It's so strange not to be out and about this week and to just kind of look at your January calendar and to be like, well, I got lots of things going on, but they all include like the space of my office. So I guess that's where it probably ties in even more, taking that break and just getting outside when you can and being able to just, I don't know, have some you time, I guess.
And looking forward to things that my winters are very different because the last two I was on the road a lot, and now being at home and not having those social interactions. Yeah, looking forward to it. Every day I've been skiing, and every weekend we've been getting together with a few friends, social distancing and following the regulations, but having fires outside and being out at the outdoor rink. So it's things that are different that I'm trying to look forward to now to get me through the winter.
Yeah, totally. So I know we talk a lot about mental health and ag. It's something that it does come up a lot more than it used to. But do you think right now it seems like in some ways people are getting burnt out from the conversation. How do we stop that from happening? How do we really still encourage the importance of talking about it?
Yeah, like when we started Do More, the conversations around mental health were few and far between. And now it's so encouraging to see those conversations happening everywhere and lots on social media and within, media publications and articles and on TV. And for the burnout, the conversation is I'd rather have that than no conversation. And even one conversation can help spark something in someone else to get the help that they need. So I'm always looking at, the positives that will come from conversations, and what I am fearful of is when the conversations don't happen. So whether it's on social media or at the kitchen table, still continue having those conversations, and it might look different. So for myself right now, it's before, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, we were asking questions of, what mental health is. And now we're asking questions as to what keeps us healthy and what keeps us motivated and what keeps us or makes us happy and what we can do to help other people. So we're also rephrasing the conversation around mental health and going a little bit deeper than what we did before.
Yeah, it certainly has changed. I know I've before posted some stuff on social media or through Real Agriculture on mental health, and I'm always amazed at the amount of people that come forward, and I'm sure you get that too. You get all sorts of people reaching out to you, but how do we? Not that everyone needs to go public, and not that it needs to be, we don't all need to be screaming from the top of our houses, but how do we get rid of that stigma that it doesn't have to be something that you're you need to private message it because you're so worried that you don't want to put it out there?
Yeah, I totally agree and see that you don't have to be sharing your mental health story on social media to get any sort of traction. From what we've done on our farm, because we were at a time where we didn't talk about it, is we just made it easier to talk about it. So we started from the grassroots, the foundation aspect of it, and just started talking about stress. Stress is less stigmatized. Stress is something that we all know. So that was one way that we got through that big elephant in the room. And then once you start talking about it in little bite-sized pieces and make it easy, then those harder conversations you make those easier for other people too, if they are looking for help or if they want to have a private conversation. For me, it's any conversation, whether public, private, with a professional, with a family member, with a friend, are so important.
Yeah. And what sorts of things is Do More looking? Like you said, you're kind of rephrasing the conversation. Is there anything that's kind of coming through the pipeline in the next year?
Yeah, we're super excited. And right now, actually, is the time that we are launching and doing all of our community fund webinars and workshops. So you can go to domore.ag under the community fund website, and you'll find our Talk, Ask, Listen workshop. It's a 3 to 4 hour workshop where you can get useful tips about mental health, self-care, how to have these conversations, and also mental health first aid. So you don't have to be in that area. They're all done virtually, but you can sign up, and they're all for free right now as well.
So, do you think right now there's any research or stuff that's missing right now? I know probably the most recent, at least in my eyes, would be the Dr. Andrea Jones Biden's research out of University of Guelph. But is there any spaces in the mental health and ag space that are really missing right now that you feel should be tackled a bit more?
Yeah, there actually isn't a lot of research in mental health and ag, so any research that we can get will help us. I know that Farm Management Canada also did a recent survey study, and it came out over in the summer to talk about mental health and the aspects around business risk and the risk of mental health when it comes to farming. I know I would love to learn more about how we want to get that help, whether it's in person, via text, call, like if generations are more impacted, gender. I know that study goes into that detail as well, but definitely would love to see more research. And the great thing about that is I know myself and other colleagues in this space are contacted a lot from those at universities looking into this and doing research too. So it's really great to see.
Dwayne Thiessen's asking a question here he says, is a virtual coffee shop using Zoom a tool to connect farmers?
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't mind Zoom, but I know it might be hard to get some of the farmers in my family to connect over Zoom because it's great to see people, it's great to connect, but also it's a screen. I would say, explore it if it works for you, and if it doesn't, there's also other communication tools that will work to, text. I love phoning people. But Zoom is a alternative. It is a solution, but it might not be for everybody.
Yep, totally. And I guess embrace what you can right now. And if it's, you know, I it, there's something to be said about exhaustion over being in front of a screen all day too. Because I know I've talked to a bunch of different people, and some people are saying, I feel like I'm in meetings all the time now. And one interesting point that I had been kind of told was you should schedule in some time for yourself. And I thought that was really, like actually put it in your calendar and say, this half an hour is mine today, and there will be no meetings booked in there. And I think that's a really kind of interesting way to look at it because lots of times it's very easy to wake up, start working, and suddenly it's 7 o'clock and you're like, where did the day go?
No, that's a great tip, and I have it on my watch, the Fitbit. Every now and then it says for you to get up and move, which is a great reminder, and to drink.
Yep.
And then also I have between 2 to 3 a time to get out and get outside because I know for me, I love the sun. The sun makes me happy. I need those rays. I have very, very pale skin, but it is a mood booster for me. So I know I have to get out between those hours just to something to look forward to and help my mood.
Would you be able to expand, if you can't, that's okay, but would you be able to expand on the research that Dr. Andrea Jones Spiden did at U of Guelph? Jay Waters just asking that right now.
Yeah, she did an amazing study. I believe it was about 5 years ago that went into the areas of understanding what farmers were going through, where we were at, what the landscape was. And the numbers were that 40% of farmers felt uneasy about seeking mental health treatment because of the stigma. Almost 60% of farmers were classified as having anxiety, and about 35% of farmers were classified as having depression. And that really let us know that our farmers were going through a hard time. Before that, we didn't know. We had an inclination, we had an idea, but we didn't have those numbers. And I know that, well, I believe that she is also looking at doing a part 2 of that study as well.
Which will be interesting to look at. I know she is a brilliant person, and I've never had the opportunity to meet her yet, but I've watched a couple webinars with her and stuff, and seems like a very genuine person. So it's always great to even see that leading up the research.
Mhm.
Lara, I guess, has a comment here. You may want to kind of comment on this. She says, my question with my friends is not how are you doing? It's more specific, like what's happening during your work day to day? Have you had time to rest? Are you getting good food in you and doing exercise? Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, no, that's great because we always get the question, "How are you doing?" And then we say, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." But if we're
Oh, you
more
know.
intentional, Yeah, if we're more intentional about, asking those questions maybe in a direct, and you also have to consider your relationship with the person, and what, the landscape is, the situation that you're in with them. But being more direct can also let someone know that you see them, that you see the changes that they're going through, and that might help someone open up as well. It just depends on, it depends on many circumstances of how you ask that question, but asking the question is key. And what Laura said is amazing.
And sometimes it's just being asked. I think just the fact you see that pop through your messages and you're like, "Hey, someone thought of me today," that sometimes can help make that go forward. So when it comes to the rules space, it's difficult because there isn't a lot of, I mean, like you guys are really working hard to be there and to provide that bit of help for people, but what do you think the public health space is missing right now when it comes to mental health and any sort of rural assistance they can provide?
Oh, the actual help of mental health professionals, and knowing or having those mental health professionals understand rural areas and agriculture. I think that could be key too, because it takes so much courage for someone to go and get help and talk to a professional. And if they have a negative experience, if someone doesn't understand agriculture, that can set us back as well. So having more support that knows agriculture, and then the awareness of where that support is, will help us, right now and then in the future.
Well, and I know farmers in my area that it's been kind of daunting for them because they finally, they might make wait months and months and months to finally make pull that trigger and go, okay, I'm gonna go talk to somebody, and they're gonna go to the public space because they can't afford the private space, and it's a 2 or 3 month wait. And that in itself is, I know sometimes I'm bad for this too. I only seek help when I'm like low, when you're like, I need help today. So I think part of that is also recognizing. Do you want to, I guess that'd be a good question for you. Do you want to touch a bit on recognizing your own symptoms and how taking care of yourself in advance can help you?
Yeah, there's things that you can do proactively and then reactively when you're in the moment of going through a mental health struggle or a challenge. So for me and my family, what we do proactively to help keep our mental health high, and one of those is the awareness of where we are at with our mental health, and knowing that it's a spectrum, and we, depending on the day, the timing, what we're going through, the environment that we're in, that spectrum can change. And the telltale signs that I look for is, I know my normal, I know my husband's normal, I know my brother's normal, and when I see them outside of that normal, of how they act in certain situations, circumstances, if they're outside of that, that's when, my red flag, or in my gut, I think something is off, and that's where we can start to have those conversations or start to talk. Um, for me, going through postpartum, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I was irritable, I was very, very emotional. For my husband, he was very, very irritable, also wasn't sleeping, also wasn't eating, and we weren't talking. He wasn't able to communicate. Just was, felt very isolated and alone. And then the other sign was panic attacks in the tractor, at home, in the yard, in the shop. So that's when we said, hey, we need to do things differently within our family and within our farm, and really helped start the proactive and reactive journey of getting help.
Yep, for sure. It's a journey, and I think it's important to kind of understand too that mental health is experienced different by everyone. Like anxiety for me might look different than anxiety does for your husband or for you or for anyone else. So I think sometimes that's tricky for a lot of us to understand when especially when we are in rural areas, right? And we are not necessarily right now, especially we're not seeing anyone, so we don't know what it looks like with other people. So
So
it's
true.
tricky.
Yeah, your mental health, everyone is different, and so is their journey, and so is how they take care of themselves. We're all different in this, and that's where that experience and those conversations are also key. Because what helped one person might not help somebody else, but knowing and acknowledging, hey, I've been there, I've gone through that, can really help give someone the courage and the hope to get help.
And I know if anyone's watching this right now and they're, struggling and wondering about reaching out, I know for me personally, anyways, having somebody who understands you it's so huge. You can have a whole family and community of people who are there for you and that support you. But for somebody to say, I know what that panic attack feels like, sometimes is just all it takes to feel validated.
Yeah, one of the things that in those conversations with Matt that I learned, and he said, he's like, I don't need you to fix this. Your job isn't to fix this for me because I'm a fixer. So
Yep.
in those first conversations, I was like, try this, do this, do this, do this. And he said, no, I just need you to listen. And most of the time when someone is going through a hard time and they're looking for that help, it's that emotional, that listening help. So just by sitting there and acknowledging what someone's going through, listening, reassuring, and encouraging, that can be what they need at that time.
We are very quickly running out of time already. Is there any sort of comments or last notes you'd like to tell our audience?
Yeah, if you're looking for help, either yourself or of someone who is going through a hard time, we have resources at domore.ag. Sign up to take one of those workshops or that mental health first aid. For me and my husband, it was life-saving, life-changing. It really helped us set a good foundation of what mental health is for each of us. So the website is domore.ag, and you can find us on social media as well.
And the handle on Twitter would be?
Do more egg.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you very much, Lesley, for your time. It's always great to be able to have these open and honest conversations. So I appreciate everything you're doing for Canadian agriculture and for farmers out there for their well being.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate the conversations too.
Absolutely. And thank you for everyone that tuned in today. It is so great to have you along. I know I say this every time, but we really do genuinely love having you guys here with us. Your comments, your interactions, it helps break up these winter blues, and it really helps break up some of these tough times. So thank you very much for joining in. And somehow this week is already over, but thank you for joining along for the whole week, and tune in to Rural Radio 147 on Sirius XM at 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time or 4:30 Eastern for today's Real Ag Radio Show. And we hope to see you guys next week. We'll be back on Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Thank you.